Groovy the Cows, Gusty Renegade. We are all ready to roll. Our guest for today's program, I was informed about her work through Henry Macko. He was with us, it was a long time, April, I believe. I think he was way back in April 2010. He was on the program and shared a lot of great information. He talked about pornography and sublimation of homosexual activity, and he referenced our guest for today's broadcast. And I thought it would be great to have her on the program. She has done a ton of outstanding work. She is an author, lecturer, expert witness, scientist, researcher, and educator. Just some of the books that she's written: The Kinsey Corruption, an expose on the most influential scientists, in quotes, of our times. She also authored Kinsey, Crimes and Consequences. Her most latest publication, Sexual Sabotage, How One Mad Scientist Unleashed a Plague of Corruption and Contagion on America. Really important information. Check out some of the images that are linked with the program, and I think you'll have a great appreciation for the research that she's going to share with us for today's podcast. And check out her blog as well, because she has a ton of articles. Her website. It's linked. You can just click her name. It'll take you right to her website. Our guest for today's program, Dr. Judith Reisman. Dr. Reisman, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I was just listening to all these nice things you're saying about me and feeling very flattered. Keep on. It's fine.
We are appreciative, thankful that you could share a little bit of your Tuesday evening with us. Outstanding research, and I think listeners they'll see what I'm talking about. Well-earned compliments to begin the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Could you share, I guess, a little bit of your background information for folks who may not be familiar with your work?
Yeah, well, sure. I used to be a very welcome guest everywhere in the world because I used to be a songwriter and worked for CBS, ABC, NBC, and especially for PBS, which was at the time called Educational Television, ETV. Worked for Captain Kangaroo for many years as a performance artist, writer, producer of segments for that wonderful program, and from there became quite concerned about the way in which television was affecting children, not from Captain, because we were pretty good on Captain. We were very careful. Bob Keeshan was very cautious about every word that was used on that program. But certainly because of much of the even Captain advertising, which he tried to really be careful about, but it was still, sort of sugar cereals and things like that. Oh, goodness sake, kids are now demanding things from their parents that their parents really don't want to give them, and it's undermining their authority, kind of. And so I kind of slipped into this whole area of television effects, went back to university to do my PhD, found out that the data on television effects was already well established by the Surgeon General's report in 1973. It was just hidden from the public. Thousands of research studies confirm that what you see affects who you are. Big news, And ended up sort of slipping and sliding into the kind of research that was going to change my life, really. Looking at Playboy magazine, which was at the time producing child pornography in its cartoons, very carefully developed over time, from small black and white cartoons with little boys watching things to sexual things to little girls to full-color cartoons of little girls being sexually assaulted, and fairy tale cartoons to photographs taken from foreign outcuts in movies, to American photographic material, allegedly of an artistic nature, and it was incestuous and so on. So ended up doing all that sort of thing. Was sued by Playboy in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, for libel and slander because I said it was the biggest child pornographer back in the early 1900s, and won my lawsuit against Playboy. Meantime, met up with the academic pedophile movement in a big conference in Wales at the British Psychological Association Conference on Love and Attraction. Got directed to the Kinsey research by a fellow who used to work, a psychologist who worked with Kinsey in Pomeroy. He told me one was a pedophile and the other one was a homosexual. I said, which is which? He said, read and discover. I did, and found that Kinsey had influenced the world dramatically and definitely picked up his pamphleteer in, guess who? Hugh Hefner, who said he had read Kinsey, decided he shouldn't be a virgin anymore. He was in college, like most guys were virgins in college back then, and would be Kinsey's pamphleteer. So he kicks off the pornography revolution. Kinsey had kicked off the sexual revolution. And everybody, please do get my book, the last one, Sexual Sabotage, because it's a lot more interesting and fascinating and frightening and explanatory than I am, and that's a kind of, bird's eye look at it.
Wow.
Hi.
Wow. The book, again, Sexual Sabotage, How One Mad Scientist Unleashed a Plague of Corruption and Contagion on America. It's linked. You can pick it up at her website, or you can go to Amazon.com, either way.
Or WorldNet Daily, yeah.
Could you say that one more time?
WorldNetDaily.com. WorldNet Daily published the book, and it's definitely available on their website or actually in any bookstore, and it'd be really nice if you go in your local bookstore and start demanding it too. So there you go.
There you go. We'll cover some of that information to help motivate people why they should check that book out. Before we, I guess, get started, I've seen your photograph. It's on your website. You're a white woman. Is that correct?
I think the last time I looked,
Okay.
I live in Arizona. There's a lot of sun, but I'm still pretty whitish.
Okay. You already mentioned Mr. Kinsey. I guess, what is the general perception of Mr. Kinsey, his work? How do people generally feel about him who have not read your work?
Well, it depends. At university level, most students are still exposed to Kinsey or his disciples. The whole field of human sexuality was based on Kinsey. There was no such field before he hit the scene, as it were, being funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. And the film Kinsey, a big feature film put out by Fox Searchlight, was in 2004. It was 2004, I think, or 3, I forgot. And that was starring Liam Neeson, which gives you a good sense of what it was supposed to be, because he's a big hero and a big, in all his films. And so the idea is supposed to be that Kinsey really was a little bit off, he just wasn't quite your regular fella. It's admitted now that he was homosexual or bisexual. People vacillate one way or the other. He certainly was not a normal or straight. But the idea that's been promoted by his defenders is that all of the bizarre things that he's accused of were only because really he was just trying to make the world more tolerant. It's that song, like to make the world, anyway. So he was trying to make the world more tolerant, and so he's this nice guy, and just accidentally stepped into the sexuality business. And, of course, those are all lies. Flat-out lies. And they're lies that are perpetrated because the entire field of sexology, all sex education, and our sex laws have been gutted and redone to reflect this psychopath. And, when you base your sexual laws in a society and you imitate the sexual conduct of a sexual psychopath, you're going to have a lot of nutty people in the country, and that's what we've got. All the way to the Pentagon right now. I guess most people are starting to become aware of the fact that they had admitted to 265 people at the Pentagon who were downloading child pornography.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, those are the guys who are going to protect us and who are in charge of Department of Defense people, I mean, thank you very much. So, yeah, pornography is as we know, it's assaulting everybody. And when I'm dealing with any group of people, and now it includes males and females, you're going to find large percentage of those folks are going to stand there and find all kinds of excuses for what they do because they're already addicts, addicted to pornography, and they're sliding and slippering and slishing down that road into really serious bad stuff, and it's destroying their lives.
So with, I guess, starting out with Alfred Kinsey, his book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male and then Sexual Behavior in the Human Female. Could you share a little bit about that with our listeners?
Oh, sure. Well, 1948, just a few years after World War II, our guys are coming home. They fought and saved the world, including Europe, which seems to forget that very quickly, saved the world from tyranny, and they're traumatized, and they're trying to start their lives again and pick up where they left off. If they're physically okay, if they're emotionally okay, they've got a crack at it. They had no idea that they defeated the enemy abroad but couldn't defeat the enemy at home because they didn't know they were being sabotaged at home. So Kinsey arrives 1948. Our guys are unable to deal with the lies he's creating. What he said was, he did this big investigation, and really the average guy is a sex offender, he said. 95% of our men, he said, are committing sex offenses, that 50% of our women are engaged in fornication, that 85% of our men are engaged. These are all, that's illegal, by the way, in the United States at the time. He said that 25% of our wives had abortions. He said that 100% of children from birth are sexual, and that they can have perfectly wonderful sex lives if they do so, with older people when they're very young. That 69% of our guys are using prostitutes, all sorts of things. And of course, 10 to 37% of American males have engaged in homosexual activity. Now, these were all lies, flat-out lies, because 87% of his population was self-selected. They were prisoners. They were 1,400 sex offenders. They were all deviant for the most part. Very few normal people would answer him, and certainly no normal women did. So that he redefined wives as any woman who lived more than a year with a man and had a large prostitution population of females that he used to redefine his wives. I mean, the guy was a psychopath and a sadomasochistic one, and children were tortured for his research. Children as babies, as young as 2 months of age, were sexually tortured for his research. And his research becomes the foundation for everything that people have been taught since in the United States of America. It's a blitzkrieg across every newspaper, his pictures on every magazine. Again, you're funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. That means that nobody really much has the nerve to come against you in the academic world. They all need your grants and that sort of thing. So he really was a mad scientist. He really did torture himself so badly, his organs, that he appears to have died from his abuse to his organs. Orchitis was the disease that he had, which is basically a venereal disease, and also one that comes as a result of massive trauma. So this guy becomes the sex educator for the world. I mean, we're going to have problems. Wow. Yeah.
I guess I really wanted to make sure I scooped out some of this information around the pedophilia and the research that went into his work. Could you share a little bit about that, please?
Sure. He's called the father of the pedophile movement by NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. They had his picture on the website. I figure one of these days I'll pull it down because they keep talking about it. And there's a statement made by the head of NAMBLA saying that gays and boy lovers should hold Kinsey dear, his research dear, because everything that he has done is the